It's week 12, and how many of our lineups have been dealt a bigger blow than Jake Paul to Nate Robinson? Welcome to week 12, BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy. All right, welcome into a new episode of BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy, brought to you by backsportspage.com. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern, joined with me as always, Derek Mountain, Tom Bennett. How you doing today, guys?
So, before we jump in, are we all on board that Nate Robinson's never going to recover from last night ever again?
Was it
what does he do?
Four times down in 4 minutes, and has he even woken up yet?
It's like he never even watched the boxing match before. It was like he was trying to tackle him. He was just curling up with Jake Paul the entire 4-minute fight. What an embarrassing showing! My God.
Two things I took away from that. One, Jake Paul actually looked very technical in the ring.
Oh, yeah. You can see he's actually boxed.
It
was one fight, but it's some strategy.
And number two, Snoop Dogg's going to get a lot of work after last night.
He was great.
He was amazing.
He was a star last night, that's for sure.
Well, it certainly wasn't that main event.
No, that was Snoop stuff.
So, welcome into to Sunday Morning Fantasy. If you have a lineup question, and I know everybody's got a lot of them because we've got a lot of issues that we got to work through today, leave them in the comments. Make sure you're subscribing to Backsports page on YouTube and on Facebook. Click the bell so that you can get the alerts of when we are going live. And like I said, you have a question, leave it in the comments section. So let's get right into it. We've got a bunch of teams that are facing COVID issues, and we got to start with the biggest one of them all, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. We saw this game already move from Thanksgiving to Sunday, and then Sunday to Tuesday, and we get even more positive tests released this morning. So far, in terms of fantasy-worthy, noteworthy players, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews, already out. It's not looking good if you're a Baltimore Ravens owner, and even if you're a Gus Edwards owner, how confident can you be starting him, knowing that other teams and it's not just another team, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers have you to worry about and you alone. So Derek, let's start with you. How are you handling being an owner of anybody with the Ravens this weekend?
So as the same situation we ran into week 4 with Tennessee and Buffalo, that was moved to Tuesday night. You have to have contingency plans, and I just think it's a risk reward that you have to factor in. So we'll get into James Conner, but he's out. So you deal with a guy like Benny Snell, Gus Edwards, Chase Claypool, Juju, Deontay. These are the playable guys on Tuesday, but for me, example, in one of my bigger money leagues, I have Chase Claypool slotted in my wide receiver 2, but as a contingency plan, I have Jalen Reagor for Monday night. So anything that happens between now and Monday night, and I don't even feel comfortable about the game being played, especially with these 2 more positive tests coming in for Baltimore last night, I might steer towards a Reagor because even certain plays like a Benny Snell might not present even that much upside to really even play that game. Whereas with Buffalo and Tennessee in week 4, you have big decisions. You have Josh Allen in that game, Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry. These are guys that can win you games single-handedly. But in this game, it's going to be freezing. It's going to be 30 degrees, drizzling. It's not going to be an ideal weather game. I think both teams are going to run the football a lot. I think there are going to be minimal possessions. So these are the things you have to think about, and I'm not even sure the risk-reward really adds up to keep some of these guys in your lineups right now.
Yeah, so this would be a time, if your league doesn't offer any contingency plans, get in touch with the commissioner. So I know the league that I'm the commissioner of, I have where if you want to start either a Raven or a Steeler, keep them in your lineup and send to me whoever you would start should the game get canceled. So this is just one of the things that we have to move forward with and have a contingency plan because of the whole COVID thing that's going on. And we can work around these things. So that's why I said, if you can get in touch with your commissioner, if your league doesn't have a contingency plan as it is, see if you can implement one, because right now I'm still not 100% positive this game gets played. Tom, we'll come to you with this one. Another COVID issue that we were dealt yesterday is in Denver. And all 4 Denver Broncos quarterbacks have been deemed ineligible to play. They are going to turn to Kendall Hinton, who played a little bit of quarterback at Wake Forest, and he's a practice squad wide receiver, hasn't taken any sort of snap in 3 months from at the quarterback position. How are you handling anybody on Denver today? Oh. Tomer, I think you may be muted.
Better? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, headset's a little wonky right now. I was actually really looking forward to their, what is it? Quality control coach?
Yeah.
Rob Calgary, baby.
I wanted to see it happen, you know? I was really looking forward to seeing that. But with Hinton at quarterback, he hasn't taken any snaps, like you said, meaningful snaps in 3 months. And he hasn't taken any snaps from the quarterback position in 3 weeks. And that was, again, on the practice squad. So I'm trying very hard to find the silver lining for the Broncos this week. You know, I saw Royce Freeman. You know, I was talking to you guys in our little group chat. Royce Freeman's the emergency quarterback, which is going to be phenomenal to watch. The only reason I would be playing a Bronco this week is if you can, like on Sleeper, you can expose Hinton's wide receiver status. I was trying to tell you guys earlier, but I guess I was muted. I was really getting ready for one of 3 guys on my team to go down to out so I could put him on my IR to snag Hinton and play him in my flex. But someone beat me to it. But that would be the only reason I'd play a Bronco this week. It's not going to be good. The other Bronco I will be talking about a little later, solely because he's going to be the dump-off guy and going to get a ton of PPR points, because Hinton's not going to be throwing it down the field to Judy or Tim Patrick or any of these other guys. But other than the Hinton at wide receiver or the guy I'm going to talk about a little bit later, I wouldn't be playing any Broncos.
So we saw Jerry Jeudy sort of come out on Twitter and sort of like ask to get some snaps at quarterback. I don't see any way that you can start Jerry Jeudy if we don't know he's going to, but that would sort of be an interesting pivot. I right now, again, like I said, I don't think it's a risk you can take, but I think we're going to see just an expanded playbook from Denver, because I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Wildcat with Gordon, with Phillip Lindsay, and even with some of their wide receivers. KJ Hamler, I can see being utilized in jet sweeps. This is going to be something that we've never really seen before. I've never been a part of a game where no quarterbacks from a team have been eligible to play. I'm not starting anybody. I only have 1 share of any of the Broncos running backs, and that's 1 share of Phillip Lindsay. I can't take that chance this week. But I'm sitting Jerry Jeudy where I have him. I'm sitting Tim Patrick where I have him. When on a regular week, this would have been a time that I could have thought about playing them.
Hinton has never logged a snap ever in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, just absolute chaos. As Tom brought up, they wanted to field their assistant quality control coach, Rob Calabrese, who was the UCF starting quarterback in 2012. So at least there would be some semblance of a playbook. And Hinton, as a receiver, would have an idea of the pass concepts, yes, but as a receiver, he is not going to know any protections. There's no realistic expectation for him to throw the ball over 5 yards, except for maybe a trick play or taking a shot to keep New Orleans honest. But this is going to be a real snooze fest, I think, especially when Denver has the ball. I mean, Noah Fant is another guy. Can't start him today. I really hope you guys have a backup plan if you have a guy like Noah Fant. But, yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I don't think the NFL's really ever seen anything like this before.
So another player, a marquee, I don't know if you would call him marquee, but a starting player that is going to miss, in fact, 2 starting players that are going to miss this week are 2 running backs. And that's James Conner in Pittsburgh and Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. Both of them, though, have multiple options that you can pivot to from within their own team. So in Pittsburgh, you have either Benny Snell or Anthony McFarland. In Indianapolis, you have either Nyheim Hines or Jordan Wilkins. So, Derek, why don't we go to you? From those 2 teams, which of the options are you preferring this week?
I just like the Colts backfield in general. I like Wilkins and Hines. Wilkins might very well be available if you didn't scoop him up by now, because he was definitely available before the Jonathan Taylor COVID news. I think he was 3% owned in ESPN leagues, and we saw him get some action a few weeks ago with the roulette of that backfield. Frank Reich always keeping us on our toes. And Taylor finally broke out last week, and he had his best game, and, of course, he gets COVID, or he's a close contact. But Nyheim Hines is a great play. I can't imagine he was a free agent to pick up, but we saw him have his best game against the Titans 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. Yep. So he's very well in high RB2 territory today without Jonathan Taylor.
Tom, how about the Steelers situation? Who you looking at there for those 2?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Benny Snell's supposed to get a lot of the touches, but I really would like to see what McFarland's got, and I'm pretty sure Mike Tomlin would too after using a high round pick on him. I don't believe James Conner is as good as everyone has always said he is, and I'm not in the minority that doesn't think he's very good. So I am interested to see if McFarland can come in and show that he can be the guy, and then we might see a potential roster move in the offseason here regarding James Conner.
Yeah, I don't mind McFarland. I'd probably go with Snell as my first choice, but Snell is probably the one that is more owned. So if you're trying to pivot right now, McFarland may be your only option, especially because the 2 options on Indianapolis are more owned than Anthony McFarland. So, like I said, it may be your only pivot in terms of those options. But as Derek, as you said, Nyheim Hines is one of my favorite pivots this week. You said he had 87 yards against Tennessee just 2.5 weeks ago. The Tennessee defense has not improved since then, especially on the ground. And I like to see Nyheim Hines get involved more in terms of carries. He's been primarily used as a pass catcher out of the backfield, but we've seen him have success when given multiple opportunities. Last week he had 4 and only had negative -2 yards. I'd like to see him get involved more in the ground game, and without Jonathan Taylor this week, I think he will.
Definitely.
All right. So we're going to start to get into our studs, and sleepers for this week, and then make some of our picks. Again, if you have any lineup questions, leave them in the comments section below, and we will answer them live on air. All right, so as always, with our studs, and sleepers, we will start off with our stud quarterbacks. And Tom, we will start off with you.
Yeah, so I got Derek Carr this week in the Atlanta Falcons. They give up some of the most, or gosh, I want to say it's top 3, if not number 1, fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Anyone who throws the ball on them is going to score points and find guys. I'm actually also really excited to see, and I don't have him in my sleepers or anything. I think this could be a big Henry Ruggs day just due to his speed and getting downfield and how weak the Falcons are downfield. And I think Carr is just going to reap the most benefits of having that paired with Darren Waller and Nelson Aguilar. And I think the one thing that the Falcons have done defensively that has been really good this year is holding the opponent's rushing attack. So this is not going to be a big Josh Jacobs week, and it's going to be all through the air for Derek Carr and the Raiders.
Yeah, I was upset that you got Derek Carr in there before me. The Falcons are last in the league in terms of giving up points to the quarterback in standard leagues. We've seen Nelson Aguilar, who we may or may not talk about in a little bit, break out over the past couple weeks. I can see this being a Henry Ruggs week as well, but you also said Darren Waller. And I made 2 primary cash game lineups on FanDuel. One stack, and both of them are quarterback tight end stacks, because I felt that this week was a week to pay up for tight ends. So my 2 stacks were Mahomes and Kelsey, and Carr and Waller. I think that's as safe as it's going to get this week. So we do have some comments coming in. We have, and this is a full PPR. Tyler Lockett or Justin Jefferson, and this was made more interesting this week with Adam Thielen going on the COVID list, testing positive. He will not be available for today. DK Lockett, DK Lockett. Well, that's what you could call him, because it's either one or the other that seems to go off, and it's been tough to predict which wide receiver is going to have the bigger game. Derek, we'll go with you, because Lockett is going against your Eagles. Do you think that the Eagles defense sets up more for it being a DK week or a Tyler Lockett week?
How is this a question? I want to see this guy's team. Really? Yeah. What a great problem to have.
Yeah. If these are your 3rd and 4th wide receivers, let me in that league.
I think they're both top 10 plays this week.
He had 1, 2, 3, and 4 all as wideouts.
Jefferson literally has no competition for touches today, especially Thielen, as you said, and Irv Smith's out. So the second option is Kyle Rudolph. And it's a juicy matchup against Carolina, but the Eagles have been very susceptible in the slot. They've given up a lot of big games to opposing slot receivers and tight ends. And Lockett logs about 2/3 of his snaps in the slot. This is the one game of the week we have to worry about the weather. It's supposed to pour tomorrow night in Philadelphia, so I think that's a little bit of a factor. Honestly, I think I like Jefferson more this week, guys.
Here's my only issue with that, Derek. And here's my only issue, right? I get it. Justin Jefferson's popping off. He's not competing for touches. And like I said, I loved Justin Jefferson this week in our little group chat. The only problem is I think with Adam Thielen out, Jefferson's going to start getting those double coverages, and I don't think he's ready for that yet. And it's going to be a big Dalvin Cook day, as it always is a big Dalvin Cook day, but it's going to be even more so. So I'm going to go Lockett here. I know it's difficult to say, like, oh, him or DK Metcalf, or as it was put, it's DK Lockett and Tyler – or, yeah, DK Lockett and Tyler Metcalf.
Here's my thing, though, and I agree. I think Dalvin Cook very well could be the RB1 today. I mean, it's the best matchup he could ask for against Carolina. say they do what they've been doing the past month, which is Kirk Cousins. They bog it down to the most degree with Kirk Cousins. They don't ask him to do anything, and he gets 15 completions today. I think half of them, just by process of elimination, have to go to Jefferson. I mean, there's BC Johnson, there's Chad Beebe, there's Tyler Conklin, like guys who just play. So, I mean, I don't expect up plays to get Chad the ball. I mean, I just don't really see it. I mean, Jefferson's proved that he's very capable.
So my issue is, who may get half of the receptions? It may be Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. That's definitely fair.
Russell Wilson, I don't think is necessarily he plays in Seattle. I think he knows how to play in the rain by now. I think that this is, to me, I actually agree with Tom. I think that Justin Jefferson is going to see, and this may be, like you said, a 14-15 completion game for Cousins. I just don't see the upside in Jefferson. If I'm looking for a safer play, I'm probably looking Jefferson because I think he'll have more guaranteed targets than Lockett. But if I'm looking for the upside, I'm probably swinging Tyler Lockett's way this week. Thank you for your question, and again, if you have any questions in your lineups, leave them in the comments below. We will answer them on air. So let's continue with our quarterback studs of the week, and Derek.
I am going to Tom Brady, and it seems like he's just flipping back and forth. Is he a top 5 guy? Is he not? And I think there's been a common theme in his worst games. And the teams that they've lost to, which are the Saints twice, the Rams, and the Bears, is they all have a lethal pass rush. And I don't think he's seeing that today at 425 against the Chiefs. They have capable D linemen and Chris Jones and Frank Clark, but they've fallen off from last year. They've been pretty middle of the pack in terms of adjusted sack rate. So I do think the Bucs get a huge boost there, and they get Ali Marpet back, who's been one of the best interior linemen in football. In the game against the Rams, you saw they had a ton of issues in the interior. Obviously, they're not playing Aaron Donald today. Chris Jones is a force by himself, but look, the Bucs have to come to terms with what they are, which is they have to establish the run with Tom Brady. They can't keep dropping him back 40 times a game, expecting him to air it out, throwing 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. That's not what he is. I expect it to be a much slower game in terms of tempo for the Bucs. I think they get Ronald Jones back involved. They're not going to try to out-Chiefs the Chiefs. They're not going to try to throw the ball around like they have been the past couple weeks, forcing the issue. I think Arians and Leftwich are going to have a much better game plan, and it's going to be much more conducive to Brady. I think he's a top 5 play this week. I think this game's going to be an absolute shootout.
Yeah, I have Antonio Brown actually penciled into one of my lineups this week because of the fact that they give up a lot to the slot receiver and to the Z receiver. Fuller is one of the best cover corners in the league right now, and teams are just avoiding going to his side. So I think that Mike Evans could be someone I'd be avoiding this week. But I do think Godwin and I do think Brown are in play. I also think that there's a chance that they can be playing from behind for much of the game, and exposing them to want to pass the ball more often. So absolutely, I can see Brady having a big game. All right, we have another question from one of our viewers. Kenyon Drake or Nyheim Hines full PPR? We earlier in the show we all said how much we liked Nyheim Hines, especially with Jonathan Taylor not playing today. Kenyon Drake does have he has been getting the majority of the touches in the Arizona backfield. I just don't see the upside right now with Drake, especially against New England's rush defense, which has been much better than their pass defense. So of these two, and I don't necessarily think either one is a bad play. I just think right now the ceiling is there that it could potentially be a shootout in Tennessee, and we see Nyheim Hines with a big week. So I'm going to lean towards Hines this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think the PPR just sets it over the top.
Right.
I think if it was standard, maybe you have a discussion because Drake did have 100 yards last week against Buffalo. He looked pretty good, but Hines has been the most efficient runner in that backfield, and now we don't have to worry about touches. He's going to get them today, so I think it's Hines.
Yeah, I'm not changing the trend here. This is a pretty simple answer, I think, for me.
All right, so thank you for your question. Now we will continue with our quarterback studs of the week, and I am going to go with Josh Allen playing against the Chargers. The Chargers have their middle of the field in terms of allowing points to quarterbacks. In fact, a little bit better than average. But this is going to be a shootout, and I would have normally put Justin Herbert, and I would have put Keenan Allen into my studs, but I think we all know by now that these guys are in the top 3 at their positions, respectively. So I don't think that it's necessary to advocate them against a defense that has been suspicious. So I'm going to go with the opposite side. I think it's going to be a shootout. One of my big picks of the week is the over in this game. Right now it's at 51.5. I don't see this. I can see this easily hitting 60, which means both sides are going to be putting up points. And Josh Allen gives you that floor with his rushing ability. So I really like Josh Allen this week. Running back studs of the week. Tom, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I got Miles Sanders versus the Seahawks this week. I know we were just talking about the Eagles and the struggling on defense, but Seattle's been struggling on defense too. We remember they were giving up those historic numbers in the air a couple of weeks back. They've gotten better, which has been nice, but until Norton's out of there, I don't see it getting much better. But Miles Sanders on the ground is going to be one of the very few options that the Eagles have, especially when they're playing it safe. And if it's true, like Derek said, where they're having the weather issues, the Eagles aren't used to that like the Seahawks are. They're going to have to rely on Miles Sanders on the ground. He's going to get some catches out of the air. It would be really nice if we can see some Miles Sanders touchdowns instead of having the backup running back score all the touchdowns like we've seen the past couple of weeks. I can see him going for over 125 total yards, though, and I'm hoping that he gets a touchdown or so. I really like the matchup, and it's going to be a big week for Sanders.
Derek, how about you?
I am going to Ryan's neck of the woods, Wayne Gallman. I think he enters RB2 territory like he's been playing the past month. I mean, the guy has 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games, and that's against Philly twice, Washington, and Tampa Bay. I mean, all of them are stout run defenses in their own. So he gets a much more favorable matchup with Cincinnati. And the way Daniel Jones has been playing, controlling the football, I think they're really forming an identity. They want to establish the run, manage the clock, play turnover-free football with their sound defense, keeping everything in front of them. And I think Gallman's the guy who benefits the most from that in terms of fantasy. So he gets a great matchup. I think Gallman is a shoo-in as an RB2, and I feel very comfortable firing him up this week.
So ready for this? This was, and again, this was another one that I was upset I didn't get my picks in because I wanted Gallman in mine. Over the last 5 weeks, so one of them has been part of the Giants' bye. Where do you think Wayne Gallman is in terms of total points at the running back position? So, again, he's played 4 of those 5 weeks. Where is he in total points?
Well,
in terms
his
of
points per game has been like 16, 17 in those 4 games. I mean, he's 60 yards and a touchdown or 2 in all those games. So I'll say he's top 10. I'll put him at like 7 or 8 is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, If he has the number, I was going to say around 10 to 12, but if you got the numbers and the stats, I can't argue that.
Whoa.
He is number 4.
with a bye
Four
week.
in terms of total points over the last 5 weeks amongst running backs. The Giants' offensive line has just raised it to a level that we haven't seen since probably 2011. We're seeing consistent play, and a lot of it has to do with the insertion of Shane Lemieux into the lineup. I think they're actually a better team with Lemieux at right guard and Will Hernandez on the left side than they are without Zeitler. Or with Zeitler in there. Thank God that contract comes off the books at the end of this year. So my again, I said that I wouldn't go with someone like a Justin Herbert or a Keenan Allen because of their just high standing in the rankings. But I'm going to go that way for my running back stud, and a lot of it is in terms of DFS. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry because I think a lot of people are going to look at the matchup against Indy and get scared away. Excuse me. This is where Derrick Henry starts to come alive. That second half of the season, players are starting to get tired. They're starting to get worn down, and he's just bigger and stronger than everybody else. There's no DeForest Buckner on the Indy side of the ball, and Buckner has made such an enormous difference to the run stopping ability for the Colts this year. And without him, I think we're going to see a huge target share or percentage of touches for Derrick Henry this week. And I'm playing him in as many DFS lineups as I can get him in. I'm not scared of the price. I'm willing to fall down at some of the other positions, even at running back and flex with some other guys that we will talk about in a little bit. One was Wayne Gallman, who on FanDuel was only 5,700. So yeah, these are some of the guys that I like to fill in terms of getting that price back down. But yeah, give me all the Derrick Henry this week.
And he had over 100 yards in that first matchup with Buckner in there. I mean,
right.
He is monumental for them. Him and Julian Blackmon have elevated them to an elite defense. Without Buckner today, I mean, besides Darius Leonard, he might be their best player on that football team. So, yeah, I mean, Quinn Nelson as well. But, I mean, you hit the nail right in the head. I love Derrick Henry today.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, I was watching that Colts game live. Oh, gosh. I'm lagging so bad. Apologies. Another thing you got to remember about that Colts game was he only had, I think it was like, I want to say 9 total yards in the first half. All of those over 100 yards that he had came in the second half and overtime. Without DeForest Buckner there to neutralize him, he could do 100 yards a half.
And look what he did against Baltimore last week. He only had what was it? I think half of his.
He had 44 yards through 3 quarters,
yeah.
And in the fourth quarter and overtime, he had 89 yards combined, and he's averaged 1.5 yards more in the fourth quarter than the first 3. So the Derrick Henry effect is very real. He wears down defenses every single week.
Yep. All right. Wide receivers studs of the week. Tom, let's start off with you.
I've been back and forth on who I was going to say, Derek, all day. And I'm not going to lie. I'm going with Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson versus Minnesota today. Teddy B's back. He's going to be a target monster. We've seen him go off in the past. He's going to get those targets today. And the Minnesota secondary is the weakest part of that team. And that's saying a whole lot about the Minnesota Vikings, right? So I'm ready to see Robbie Anderson go back to getting those 10, 11 targets that we were seeing in weeks 1 to 5. And he's going to break off for over 100 yards again. The only thing that concerns me about him is he hasn't had a touchdown since week 1, but that could work to his advantage because it's about time. He's due. He's going to go get what's his. He's going to break over 100 yards again. Hopefully a touchdown.
He has 1 touchdown this year, and he's still the wide receiver 13 in PPR. It's crazy what he's done, and no CMC again, but that helps Robbie. I mean, they're not going to lean on Mike Davis. He's come down to earth the past month. He's had to fill in relief for CMC. I think with Teddy back in, I think Robbie thrusts himself back into wide receiver 1 territory.
All right, we have another question. We have James White or Zach Moss PPR. Why
are you doing this to me?
Interesting.
To me, this is easy, and this is easy to me, and we'll get into it as here's a little sneak peek. My sleeper running back of the week is James White, with no Rex Burkhead. Sure, Sony Michel's going to be active. Sony Michel's not going to do anything, especially in the passing game. They're going to I think they're going to be playing from behind against Arizona. I expect James White to have a minimum 6 catches today, and they trust him at the goal line. So, and they trust him, and they trusted Rex Burkhead a lot more at the goal line than they ever have trusted Damian Harris so far. James White is where I'm leaning.
These are the questions that we are built for right here, not Lockett versus Jefferson.
Right.
I do not sympathize for that question at all. But I think I lean towards White as well. I mean, he had 6 catches last week, but the thing you have to consider about LA, James Robinson broke them a month ago. They hadn't given up a rushing touchdown all year, and since that point, they've given up, I think, 5 in the last 4 games. So, and Moss is the quintessential goal line back. On that team, he gets all the goal line carries. So, it's pretty close.
Josh Allen.
Well, yeah, true. A very good point. But in PPR, I mean, I just think White gives you that nice floor. So, I do go with White as well.
See, the reason I ask why do you do this to me is because I have this love for Zach Moss. I drafted him in basically every league, and I know what the right answer is, and I know what my heart's telling me. Pulling me across, and to pick a Patriot? Are you kidding me? At least the Bills, for the longest time, the AFC East teams, not the Patriots, all kind of had this understanding, hey, we're all fighting for second place. Let's hate the Patriots, right? So I don't hate the Bills. I don't really hate the Dolphins, but you're making me pick a Patriot over a Bill, especially one that I hold near and dear to my heart. Oh, James White, let's please move. My chest hurts.
I don't think Zach Moss is necessarily an awful play.
No.
I think
he's fine in the flex.
Yeah, he's fine in the flex, but I think the floor that White is going to give you in terms of pass catching in a PPR league is just more because, you know what? Also, Devin Singletary isn't going away.
Mm-hmm. So I was just going to bring that up. Why not? All right. So we see Josh Allen and Zach Moss are the goal.
No John Brown either.
Yeah.
Right. No John Brown. But Josh Allen and Zach Moss are the goal line guys. Zach Moss is also the pass catching guys. What does Devin Singletary do for this football team?
He's good last year.
He's not.
He's very good last year.
He was great, but now he's competing with Zach Moss, and Zach Moss is just better.
I mean, the Bills aren't a running football team. They've established that. I mean, they've completely shifted off what they've done under McDermott. I mean, that's the thing with Moss is I just think the floor isn't really there, and you're depending on a touchdown.
Singletary is Montgomery without the carries.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Montgomery.
And he's actually in a good offense, but their O-line, it hasn't been a good run-blocking unit this year.
No. They haven't needed to be.
Understand. If you're a passing team, you want a pass-catching running back. So why is Zach Moss not out there more often? He literally comes out for third downs and goal line. Anyway,
and they spent a third-round pick on Singletary last year, and then Moss on a second-rounder this year. That's 2 high picks for a running back. They're going to use both of them.
That's why they're going to trade one of them, and it's going to be Devin Singletary because he's garbage. Anyway.
Tell us how you really feel.
I just have this deep love for Devin Singletary. It's not that he's burned me all year. It's not that I used a third-round pick on him in multiple leagues to take him. It's none of that. I actually love the guy.
All right, let's continue with our. Oh, thank you for your question. Let's continue with our. We are on
Wide receiver studs.
And Derek. Let's go with you so you can continue all the love for Justin Jefferson.
Exactly. We already covered it. The only thing I will say is he finished with a stat line of 3 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown last week against Dallas, a very porous secondary. And it's not as favorable this week against Carolina, but he got saved by the 39-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. But if you're Kubiak, you have to reevaluate that game and reassess and realize that you have to give a guy like Justin Jefferson the ball much more. I don't think he really has a choice today. Besides my rant at the beginning, those are the only points I'll add. But I truly believe Justin Jefferson is a top 5 pick today, just off sheer opportunity and volume that he'll see.
So the actives and inactives have. Sorry to cut you off. They have come out. The Charger. This is something that maybe we need to discuss before we move on. The Chargers running back situation, because Austin Eckler is active and Kalen Ballage is inactive for today. Are we expecting Austin Eckler to receive a healthy amount of touches this week?
It's him, Troy Maine, Pope, and Joshua Kelly. I mean, and look, I'll read into it. I don't really care, but we saw the video. We've seen the videos of him working out the last 2 weeks. He looks phenomenal. I mean, I am firing up Eckler into my leagues, and I'm not even mad about it. I think he goes back to what he was doing the first 2 weeks in terms of volume.
All right.
I mean, especially with Kalen Ballage out, there was going to be a question of whether or not he's going to get touches when Austin Eckler came back, if he's going to be the change of pace, because Austin Eckler is this utility tool, CMC-like player. I don't see how they don't play him and utilize him, especially in this shootout that we're all projecting with the Bills, right? And the Chargers are still fighting to stay alive. Like, although their record doesn't reflect it, they're a quality football team that could potentially make a wild card spot if they can go 500. Yeah. Whether or not that happens is probably not going to happen. Like, let's be honest, look at their record, but they have the talent. They can't afford to not utilize him today.
I'll give you a question. In one of my leagues, I'm starting Eckler over Nyheim Hines right now. What do you think of that?
I think the upside, I think Eckler definitely has the bigger upside, only because he's the better player. He's also in a better offense who is going to throw the ball more often and is probably going to be playing in a game where they're going to be throwing the ball more than in the Tennessee game. The hamstrings are just so they worry me. Having a player come back the first week from the hamstring injury, the only saving grace is that it's been almost 3 months since. So they were very cautious with bringing him back into the fold. I would probably play Eckler over Hines as well.
I need to see Herbert and Eckler together too. I need to see it.
Right. So I'm actually in a league where it's a point per completion for quarterbacks, and I have Justin Herbert.
Oh, forget about it.
So this can only we've been singing the praises for Justin Herbert since the very beginning on this show. We've been all over the breakout of Justin Herbert. This is only going to make Justin Herbert better, inserting Austin Eckler into the lineup and giving him just another option. Now, what do you think this does to either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams? I'm not necessarily all that worried, because I think the total amount of carries that the team is going to have is going to reduce. And I think what you're going to see in the reduction of the carries is going to go in terms of passes getting put to the running back. So I'm not necessarily that worried in turn. And I mean, look at what Keenan Allen did.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top 3 receiver with Herbert. I mean, they're not going to cater the offense back and almost tame Justin Herbert just because Eckler's back. I just think they're going to be more efficient on the ground game now. Maybe they run the ball a little bit more on first and second down, but with the Chargers, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to be probably up at some point today, and then they're probably going to crumble it away, and they're probably going to have Herbert try to save them in the end. So either any situation, it's going to be positive for Eckler and Herbert and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So I don't see it hurting those guys.
The other thing I would just like to point out with that is there are going to be more opportunities and everything for the Chargers offense than the Colts, because the Titans are going to run the ball. They're going to eat up a lot of clock, and I just think that there are going to be more possessions in that high-scoring game. So that means more opportunity for a guy like Eckler.
Definitely.
All right, so we have a comment from the wonderful host of the Fourth and Long podcast here on the Back Sports page, radio, web show, podcast network. Justin, he says also play Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Absolutely, both of them are top 12 plays for me this week, and he's got Brown's score prediction.
The spread's 7. I mean, and they're playing Mike Lennon.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like a 27-12 kind of game today for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a little bit more than that. You know, I actually really like Jake Luton. I really wish he would be able to play.
Playing. Luton's not
playing.
I know.
Oh, okay. I'm sad he's not playing. I think it would have been a much better game to watch with Luton in. You know, I think it'll be around that same number. But
Myles Garrett's back too, right?
No, Myles Garrett is out again this week.
I mean, Vernon absolutely abused Jason Peters last week, so I don't expect that to be very different against Jacksonville.
The Browns defense, even though they will be without Garrett, without Denzel Ward this week,
that's right.
I still think they're one of my favorite defensive streams of the week, mainly because Mike Glennon sucks.
No DJ Chark either.
No DJ Chark,
no Chark.
And
no Chanel.
No, he's in.
There was also another. There was
Conley's
also
out.
Conley, yeah. So
Keelan Cole show, I guess.
Keelan Cole, Keelan Cole, James Robinson.
Yeah, like how many times is Jacksonville going to score today? 3 or 4 max, and I expect like max 2 touchdowns max.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 27-17.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll cover. I don't necessarily think it'll be a blowout because I do think that Jacksonville's going to slow down the pace enough with James Robinson. But yeah, 27-17, and you Clevelandites can celebrate again, but just wait until week 14 when you have to deal with these powerhouse New York Giants. These after this week, the first place New York Giants.
The first place. That just has a ring to it. The first place New York Giants.
we will hold off on the 4-7 part. So we have need one for a flex PPR: Slayton, Hunter Henry, or Christian Kirk.
Easy for me. One of these guys is my sleeper. So yeah, we'll talk about him later. But Kirk, it's Kirk for me.
Yeah. This is tough because I think Slayton is due for a big game. Hunter Henry is also my stud tight end of the week, but I'm also going to play a wide receiver over a tight end in most instances. But I think without Larry Fitzgerald and playing against a porous New England secondary, I was going to save the stat for when Derek was talking about his wide receiver sleeper of the week. we all think of the New England secondary as being this great unit, and Stephon Gilmore as being one of the top. Stephon Gilmore this year is averaging, or he's not averaging, he's allowing 67% of the balls thrown at wide receivers he's covering to be completed for over 15 yards a catch. This is not the same Stephon Gilmore or New England secondary from the past couple of years. Christian Kirk is, even though I do like Slayton, I do think the Giants could be up early and they may not have to throw the ball as often. So I will lean towards Christian Kirk as well.
I think this is the first 3-person question that we've got where we've all been in agreement in like 2 weeks. Because a couple of weeks we've all gone 1-1-1.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The last like 2 weeks have been absolutely crazy. We've done that every single week.
That's what I'm saying. So I think this is the first time in a couple of weeks where we have 3 options and we're kind of agreeing. I actually thought that I was going to be the only one leaning Kirk. I kind of forgot Derek had him as his sleeper pick. Right. But the thing that really tipped this over the top for me was that Bill Belichick likes to take, we all know Bill Belichick likes to do, he likes to take away the top option for the Cardinals or for whatever team he's playing on defense. That's going to be DeAndre Hopkins. And, you read off the Stephon Gilmore stat, which is just going to be scary to watch, especially with a guy of Hopkins' level. But they're going to be so focused on that side of the field. I think they're going to kind of forget about Christian Kirk and let him get one-on-one. And I was going to say, he's going to have a field day. So I'm glad we're all in agreement there.
All right. Thank you for your question. We will we'll move on with our studs of the week. And it's my turn for wide receiver studs of the week. And I am going to go with Devontae Parker for the Miami Dolphins. He gets to go up against the Pee-wee defense of the New York Jets.
Fitzmagic, baby.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick just makes Devontae Parker instantaneously a relevant option. We saw that one series, that the first series that Fitz came in last week against Denver, and boom, he starts targeting Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. What we've been missing for weeks. We've been so down on Gesicki and Parker since the Tua takeover. I absolutely love Devontae Parker this week. I actually think that the Jets will be able to keep it a little closer than some people may. Not saying in the end. I'm saying because the Jets actually
they're going to throw the ball the first 3 quarters.
The Jets have been decent first half half team.
They're better with Dowell Logans as the play caller. I mean, that's just a fact. And with Mims and Perriman in there, they're a competent offense. I don't even know if I'll call them competent. Just like
you want to know else? You want to know what else
for the worst
out of the crap?
You want to know what else makes them better? It is when Joe Flacco is in, because Sam Darnold does not look good. No. It's time to move.
No.
Anyway.
So I don't necessarily. Yeah, I don't necessarily think this is going to be, and especially they're not going to have Myles Gaskin. They're not going to have Salvan Ahmed this week. It's going to be Matt Breida, which to me means 45 passes for Ryan Fitzpatrick, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I love me some Devontae Parker this week.
I have a lot to say about the Ryan Fitzpatrick choice.
All right, let's move on to. Before we move on to tight end studs, we have another question: Goff or Tannehill, and Gio Bernard or Raheem Mostert. So
these are 2 good ones.
Yeah.
No.
All right,
not for me. One of them is not a good one for me. I think that's the first one. Really,
I think they're tough. I think they're 2 tough choices, honestly. I actually, San Fran's going to be good today, guys. I mean, they get Richard Sherman back, they get Trent Williams back on offense, they get Debo back, they get Mostert back. So it's a 7.5 point spread. I think they're definitely going to cover that, and I think Shanahan and the Niners are best when their backs against the wall like this. I think it's going to be a competitive football game. So I actually am leaning towards Tannehill. I think he'll be a beneficiary of that run game without Buckner. I mean, he leans on that run game for the play action pass. So I really think Tannehill kind of gets some normalcy today, and I would lean towards Mostert, actually. You worry about the volume, but there's no competition, and he's so efficient with his touches. He only needs 10 carries to pop off 170-yard run in that offense. We've seen it in the very limited action he's had. So I love the upside play of Mostert, and Benard kind of becomes irrelevant to me with Brandon Allen as the quarterback.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go the other way. We're going to talk about sleepers here in a minute. So I'm going to go with Jared Goff there. I don't think it's going to be a big day for Tannehill, just solely because of what we were talking about with Derrick Henry earlier. Like I said, he could have 100 yards in each half with a touchdown in each half. So I'm really thinking it's going to be Tannehill. As far as Gio Benard and Mostert, I'm very scared for Giovanni Bernard. And once we got a little deeper into the show, I was going to ask a question about my lineup with Giovanni Bernard. But right here, I think you said it best. I don't really trust him without Joe Burrow. So I'm going to have to go Mostert. I know everyone's questioning the usage that he's going to get, especially coming back after this really long injury. Can you guys tell me, is McKinnon playing today? Because I've seen he was up in the air, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and I don't really know where his status is.
We won't know the inactives for the late games for another 2 hours or so.
Coleman's not playing.
Yeah, Coleman's not playing. Jeff Wilson is activated, but Jeff Wilson
Hastie's played himself out of the lineup.
Right. Well, Hastie's on IR with a broken collarbone.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So,
to me, it's easy. Mostert is the easy part of this for me.
I agree with that. I was going opposite with the quarterback with Derek.
Yeah. Goff is actually who I'm going to go with. I'm down on Tannehill this week. I'm also down on the Rams running game ever since Andrew Whitworth went down. They're not running it effectively, and we saw last week that the Rams they're not afraid to pass the ball against good secondaries. And we saw both Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp have week-winning weeks last week. The first half was dominated by Kupp, the second half dominated by Woods. I think they're finding a tempo, and I don't necessarily think Richard Sherman is the one who's going to scare me off of playing Goff. So I'm going to go Goff and Mostert as well. So thank you for your question. Again, Goff, he's not my favorite play of the week. I'm not going that far.
They're both they're both top 10 QBs this week because the QB field is so dire. So, I mean, I think they're both between that 8 to 10 range. I mean, Goff's not throwing it 51 times like he did last week. I find that I don't see it. That's not a sustainable recipe for success, especially without Whitworth at left tackle. I think that's an easy way for Goff to get hurt. So I think he's going to come down to earth a little bit, but you guys both bring up some very good points. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's not a runaway for Goff in any terms, because, I mean, the 49ers still have they're coached very well. They still have playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. To me, it's more about the matchup of Tannehill against the Colts defense, where I think they'll be able to run the ball. That's why I love Derrick Henry this week. So I think they may take it out of the hands of Tannehill because of that. All right, let's move on to our favorite part of the show, and that's our tight end studs.
No one.
And it was funny because we said this last week, and then last week was one of the best production weeks for tight ends that we've seen in quite some time, and that follows a week where the number one tight end had 2 catches on the week. So
I really enjoyed Taysom Hill on the tight end slot in ESPN. That was just so great to not have that headache for a week. That was awesome.
So I'm in one league that is on ESPN, and it's a family league, and so it was like my 13, 14-year-old cousin was the one who actually played Taysom Hill in the tight end spot in that week, and he ended up winning because his other tight end would have been Jonnu Smith, who did nothing, and he won by a couple points. So it was a long week of trash talking in our family chat. So no Taysom Hill this week. Tom, who do you like?
I had to change this up due to some COVID-related events. So I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst this week versus the Raiders. It's going to be an air raid again. Like I said, I think this is going to be another shootout game. I kind of touched on it when I was talking about Derek Carr. Matt Ryan is getting more and more comfortable targeting Hayden Hurst, which is just lovely to see because we really do need a tight end to kind of step up into like one of those lock guys that we can't talk about in our studs. Because I can't keep just bringing up how much I love Hayden Hurst in this offense. I really can't. Like I feel like a broken record. The past couple of weeks, he's gotten 7 targets, and 8 targets, and has caught almost all of them. I think he has like 5 drops between the 20. What is that? Yeah, the 20 targets. I think he's got 15 of them. Doesn't really get the touchdown numbers, doesn't really get a ton of yards because there are a lot of checkdowns that he ends up taking for first downs. But what else can you really ask for from a tight end these days? Not everyone can be Mark Andrews where they're the red zone threat.
And no Julio. I feel like Hurst, just by process of elimination, is a top 5 tight end this week without Julio in the lineup.
Well, and not Julio. So not even without Todd Gurley. They're going to need to throw the ball. I don't trust Brian Hill.
My issue is that Matt Ryan tends to suck when Julio Jones is out of the lineup. Now I know, it is a juicy matchup against the Raiders.
Your hope is they fall behind,
right? And which they very well could. I'm just afraid of it being Ridley and Ridley alone. Mm-hmm. And maybe even some of my running back sleeper of the week, which we'll get into. I have 2 running back sleepers because I couldn't think of one, and it's my show, so I'm allowed to do whatever I want. Derek, who do you have?
I'll go with Goddard. Whatever. He's got volume the last 2 weeks, so that's like the best we could do right now at tight end. So, of course, in the worst weather game of the week last week, he gets 77 yards and a touchdown, and the Eagles feature him. Fulgham's only seen 2 catches in the last 2 games combined, so his role is disappearing in front of our eyes for whatever reason. Thanks, Doug Peterson. Great coaching team. But anyway, I think Goddard's really the best pass catcher, the most reliable pass catcher on this Eagles offense going into Monday night. And especially if it's a bad weather game, it's going to be more conducive to those short passes to make it easier for Wentz, those easier reads, middle of the field passes. It is cute. He's been back for 3 games now. The Dallas game before the bye, he saw 8 snaps, so not really a fair barometer there. And then the last 2 weeks, he's seen 6 targets in each game. So kind of the best we could do right now, but I really wouldn't be surprised if he had a catch for 8 yards, the way this Eagles offense looks either. So take that for what you will, guys.
I'm glad that I found someone with as much confidence in their team as I do.
Richard Rodgers has been he has been the most efficient tight end in terms of yards per route run. He has gained, I think, 2.9 yards per route run, which is more than Kittle and Kelsey and Waller, all of them. He's number 1 among tight ends. So it might be Rodgers that gets the 60 yards and the touchdown with the tight ends with the Eagles this week. Who knows?
Now, I am hearing rumblings that there's a possibility of Zach Ertz comeback this week.
So he practiced this week. From what I read in little snippets with the press releases and just the injury report, I think they're holding off for another week. And if they do dress him, it'll be a very sparing role. And that's not an injury to mess with, an ankle. So I don't think Ertz is really going to be involved. And even when he was, he didn't do anything. So if Ertz comes back, I don't see him exceeding 10 snaps. I don't, especially the way Rodgers is playing, and Goddard played well last week. So I think they build off that.
I heard it was going to be an emergency role where he goes in if Goddard and Rodgers goes down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So my tight end stud of the week is going to be Hunter Henry, as I had alluded to earlier. The Buffalo defense is 29th in half point PPR, in half PPR, in terms of giving up points to the tight ends on the season. Hunter Henry has 20 targets over the last 3 weeks. He's finally getting involved in the offense. And again, without Kalen Ballage, and with it being an insertion of Austin Eckler, I can easily see the pass attempts going up, as crazy it may sound, for Justin Herbert this week, which can only benefit someone like Hunter Henry. So again, in a week where, I mean, I love Kelsey, I love Waller, so does everyone in the world. I think Hunter Henry is a top 5 play this week. All right, let's move on to our duds of the week and our quarterback duds. Tom, who you got?
I mean, how much do we need to talk about this game and how much I hate Ryan Tannehill this week? I mean, he's not going to be throwing the ball a ton. If he is, it's not going to go well. We saw him last time versus the Colts 2 weeks ago throw 15 completions on 27 attempts for 150 yards or something like that with no touchdowns. It's not going to be good. It's going to be a Derrick Henry show. I don't really have any more to say. Like I said, we've already gone over it all.
Derek, how about you?
I mean, this is like a layup, but I'll just whatever. I'm going with Trubisky because he very well could be the QB 15, 16 right now in early QB rankings just because of the options that some guys may be left to. And in a 2 QB league, yeah, I think you fire up Trubisky if you have to. But in DFS leagues, I'm staying far away from him. In lifetime, he's 1-4 against Green Bay. In his 3 games this year, he had 24 points in week 1 thanks to 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns against the Lions in that comeback win. But he didn't exceed 12 points in his next 2 games after getting benched in the second half against the Falcons. And the concerning part for me that made Mitch Trubisky once at least a viable option was his rushing output. And he logged 5 carries in those 3 games. So, yes, Bill Lazor is calling the plays, but it just looked like a carbon copy of what we saw from Nagy's offense. It's just very stale and bland. So it's a risky play. The only way Trubisky gets to relevance this week is if he gets 40 on the ground with a touchdown, which I'm not willing to count on. Yeah,
all you need to do is say bench Bears quarterback.
Whoever it may be.
Whoever it may be. So my quarterback dud of the week is actually somebody who over the last 3 games is averaging 275 yards and almost 3 touchdowns a game. So those are pretty good numbers. And he's going up against a defense this week who is middle of the road in terms of giving up points to the quarterback. So you got to assume that it should be a pretty decent play. But I'm for reasons that we stated earlier about how I'm a little bit afraid for the passing game because Adam Thielen is out. I'm not necessarily certain how Jefferson's going to be able to adapt to being the X this week. So I'm benching and I'm fading Kirk Cousins this week. Again, he's been really efficient the past 3 weeks and actually 4 out of his last 5 games. And the only game that he wasn't that efficient was the game against Green Bay where where Dalvin Cook just did every single thing a team needed to win a game. But I just don't like what we may see from Cousins, and this may be one of those. Dalvin Cook gets the ball 38 times this week, so I am fading Kirk Cousins. Running back duds of the week, Tom. Who you got?
I think we're all going to have one of these, so I'm going to go ahead and use mine up. Bench Broncos players. I got Bronco running backs versus the number one rushing defense, New Orleans Saints, this week. I don't care if Royce Freeman's going to come in as emergency quarterback. You got to bench him too. This is not going to be a good week for Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, or anyone else that they're going to put out there. Bloodbath is written all over this game.
Yeah, the only thing that you can say about the Broncos running game this week is there's certainly going to be a lot of volume, because I think there isn't a whole lot more that they're going to be able to do because of the restrictions that having a practice squad wide receiver as your quarterback are going to give you.
You can only imagine. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can only imagine. So they get this news last night. I'm sure, they got it probably a few hours before we all did in social media, whatever. So you can only imagine that the Broncos are walkthroughing in their hotel and installing a whole new offense last night and this morning. And I'm looking up Kendall Hinton. He was a 4.58 at his pro day in Wake Forest last year. So, not slow, but that's the same as what Jalen Hurts was in the NFL Combine. He's certainly not a burner, but he's definitely an athlete. So, he doesn't even have, a big playability that maybe one of these running backs bust one through, and you just know the Saints are going to put 8 in the box. So
right. At 9 or 10 is more likely.
So going back to my little question here, I said I had another question. I was trying to wait till we got to talking about the Broncos. I have Hinton on my roster as a wide receiver eligible player. So much like Taysom Hill's situation with the tight end. Do I play him at my flex over Giovanni Bernard or Jay Crowder? So I guess out of those three, because I also have Melvin Gordon, but like I said, there's no way in hell.
Jamison Crowder?
Yes, Jamison Crowder. I call him Jay.
Okay.
My bad.
I was talking with Derek before you joined us. I actually kind of like Jamison Crowder this week now that that Darnold is back. That's his safety. That's his safety blanket. He leans on Crowder when Crowder is healthy. So it's the unknown. It's the unknown of how they're going to use Hinton.
Yeah, he's not going to necessarily log every snap at QB. I think they're going to just pull everything. You might see Judy, Hamler, as Ryan said earlier, Wildcat with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. Has Noah Fant logged the pass in high school? Was he a quarterback in high school? I have no idea. Maybe they throw him back there. I don't even know.
This is going to probably influence your choice. I just got news. Adam Gase is taking back play calling duties.
Oh, wow.
So
that makes me think Crowder.
That means all Crowder. Every single person is going Crowder's way.
It's going to be 12 3-yard passes to Jamison Crowder. It's going to be a 12 for 40 day.
Oh. See, I picked up Hinton because I had a roster spot available. There's no one really better. I'm curious because I know it's going to be a lot of running, but it is
fantasy. You want to make it fun, so if the rest of your lineup's pretty good, why not? Crowder's a pretty boring play in general.
I get it. Also depends on do you need the win to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I do.
If you need the win to get in the playoffs, I'm absolutely going Crowder.
Well, I got 33 points already between Coop and Hawkinson.
How is Gase assuming the play calling role?
Dude, don't even get me started. This has ruined my entire day. I'm not going to watch the game.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
The tank is fully on. They saw Trevor throw for 300 in the first half yesterday, and they said, we can't even risk it. Throw Gase back in there for play calling.
I promise you that's the only reason that we still have him as a coach.
Absolutely. There's no other reason. Absolutely.
Tank for Trevor, and then we're also going to pick up ETN with the first pick of the second round. It's going to be Clemson.
You have Seattle's first round pick also,
and you're going to trade Darnold for a day 2 pick. So they actually Joe Douglas has some toys in the draft.
Yeah. All right, Derek, running back dud of the week. Who you got?
I am staying away from the Gus bus in Baltimore, and part of it plays into we don't even know if this game's going to be played. I mean, look, 2 more positive tests last night, 22 staff and players, so that alone, and Gus isn't a high enough upside play for me to wait it out and play him. There's so many other running backs I'd rather just get the guaranteed points instead of waiting it out for Gus Edwards. Now, is it guaranteed volume? Yes. Was he good in their first matchup? He had 80 yards in their first matchup, but it's a completely different circumstance. No Ronnie Stanley left tackle. They don't have Nick Boyle tight end, maybe the best blocking tight end in football. Marshall Yanda, we've talked about, retired before the season. This run game hadn't looked the same even with Stanley and Boyle in there. And you have RG3 at quarterback. So Mike Tomlin's going to go in here, and he's going to say, let's almost as if it's them playing Denver, obviously not to that extent. But there's no Mark Andrews. I mean, they have Hollywood Brown and Willie Snead, and the starting tight end is a guy by the name of Sean Culkin, who has 2 career catches. So, look, I think Tomlin, they already are the top defense against opposing running backs, but they're even going to acquiesce more towards stopping Edwards because what else is there to do against that offense? You're going to make RG3 beat you in that game.
I know what they could do on him. They could sneeze on him and have RG3 fall down. That could be the next thing.
We might see Trace McSorley on Tuesday night.
No, he's on the COVID list, I think. I don't think he's active.
Really? So I wonder who their emergency QB is. We might get another Kendall Hinton situation if we're not careful.
Dez out there, yo. Dez has got a cannon.
Oh, my God, that's right. Dez is playing again.
Yeah.
He might actually play because they're not going to play tight ends.
He played last week. He looked really good.
He had a couple catches last week.
Yeah, they have to play 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, I guess. It's Culkin, and, I mean, they're going to play Pat Ricard every play, so it's going to be like 21 personnel. But
yeah,
honestly, if I were them, I wouldn't even use my tight end. Like, I would put – obviously, you need to have, like, a tight end on
they're going to put Ricard there probably. It's a de facto tight end.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, just – you know how like some of the third string tight ends for teams are linemen. Just put another lineman at tight end and use him. Get RG3 the help he needs.
He'll need it. That's for sure.
He's going to need it. So why not utilize the extra blocker?
Yep. My running back dud of the week is going to be someone who I had as my stud of the week last week, and he hit big time. Had 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. Now he comes back and gets to play one of the toughest run defenses in the league, and his passing game gets to go against a little bit of an injured secondary with Jamel Dean out. So my dud of the week is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire again. With everything going on in your season-long league, it's almost impossible to take him out of your starting lineup. I'm talking in terms of DFS. I'm not going anywhere near Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week. I think that it's going to be awfully tough for them to establish a ground game this week. So I'm steering away from one of my favorite players in the league. We do have another question from a viewer. PPR, Montgomery or Eckler. I think all 3 of us are good with that one. And Juju, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore.
Ooh.
All right, so I'll speak for all of us that we're all going Eckler.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so especially PPR.
Yes.
This one's tough because you have the questions about whether or not Juju is actually going to be playing because of the question marks with the game. You have Allen Robinson, who I know you took, Derek, you took before I could. We're about to talk about him, and DJ Moore. So I mean, for me, I think there's there's one play that is the safest, and that's DJ Moore.
Yeah, I would go Juju if I knew the game was being played, but I'm going DJ Moore as well.
I agree with Derek's statement. If I knew for a fact that this game would be played on Tuesday, I feel like Juju could kind of pop off a little bit because they've been trying to get him more involved.
This is like something that I was talking about earlier in the show. I don't know if you were tuning in right away. Find out if there are any contingencies with your league. Reach out to your commissioner. See if they have a way where you can put in Juju. You put in Juju in your starting lineup. But you say, if the game doesn't get played, I would want to play DJ Moore. It's just something that we have to adapt to in these times. Again, it's really tough to bench Allen Robinson, but as Derek's gonna explain, and I'll tune in, I'll chirp in afterwards as to why I think he's right. I'm leaning away from A-Rob this week. So the safest play is definitely DJ Moore.
Even though Robbie Anderson's going to get all those targets, but it's fine.
We were 2 for 2 there, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Doesn't happen too often on this podcast. Good job.
And especially in 1 week. Look at that.
Yeah. All right. So now we are going on to our wide receiver duds of the week. And Tom, you lead us off.
Okay, so I sort of lied when I said everyone gets one of these. I'm going to take a second one, and I'm going any Cincinnati Bengal receiver, especially T. Higgins. I'm gonna refine it and make it especially T. Higgins. I feel horrible for what happened to Joe Burrow, and Ryan Finley's not an answer. Brandon Allen's not an answer. I feel really bad for T. Higgins, more so than a lot of the other guys on that Bengals team, especially Giovanni Bernard. He has been balling out, getting 5 or more targets every single game since week 2. Last week, he had 10 targets with only 3 catches for 26 yards. And I don't even know if you can count some of those targets because they were 20 yards over his head.
I think we're going to learn today just how much Burrow masked up the flaws of that Cincinnati O-line. I mean, look, Herbert's the rookie of the year, but what Burrow's done with as little as he has, yes, they have a great wide receiving core, but that O-line is so bad, and his ability to get the ball out quick and extend plays has masked up their issues long enough, much longer than I thought, honestly, and it sucks because this seemed inevitable, and it's just bad management by Cincinnati. They didn't protect their investment, but Brandon Allen behind that O-line is really going to struggle today. And the Giants are a very good defense. I mean, that D-line's been really solid this year.
Well, and their corners have been surprisingly good, too. Obviously, everyone knows about James Bradbury. This is a good defense.
I don't know if Allen throws for 150 today.
You think he's going to break 100?
Yeah, because they're going to be losing. I mean, I think he'll throw the ball probably 25 times, but
that doesn't mean he's going to complete it for 20. He's not going to complete that. I think it's going to get a lot of interceptions and a lot of balls batted down. I don't really think he can break 100 yards unless he gets it swing passes to Gio.
Could this sneakily be a Drew Sample week? Because I feel the same way.
I've never heard his name in 3 months.
But Drew said his snap percentage is there. His routes run are there. It's just that
Burrow can give the ball to those outside receivers.
Right.
Brandon Allen won't.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
These new quarterbacks tend to lean on their checkdowns a lot more than some of the more seasoned veterans. So I can see Gio Benard being okay in a PPR because he may get these dump offs. Again, for Gio Benard, it may be 7 catches for 19 yards.
Yeah.
But
it was going to be a sad day for Bengals fans.
Yeah. Well,
I'll take it.
Like I was saying for T. Higgins, I feel the worst for him. He broke 90% of the snap count last week. He's finally starting to take over.
He very well could be third best rookie receiver right now statistically behind Jefferson and Claypool. I mean, CD would have been that third guy, maybe the second guy if Dak had stayed healthy, but T's been balling with Joe Burrow the past month and a half.
So I guess it was after week 5, because Kenny Golladay missed the first 3, then played the next 3 and has missed ever since, I think.
Yep.
Something like that.
So after week 5, I guess it was after week 6 because they had a week 5 bye. So after week 6, I had found a team that hadn't won a game yet. They were looking for keeper options for next year. So I traded T. Higgins for Kenny Golladay.
Oh, I love that deal. Because Burrow's not going to be ready till week 5 or 6, optimistically. I mean,
I traded away T. Higgins.
No, I'm saying that's a good deal. I mean,
for him,
they might be opening up with Ryan Finley next year unless they get a bridge QB for the first couple weeks.
Well, so Kenny Golladay, because of the keeper structure, would be a first-round keeper. I can't keep him in the first round.
Oh, okay.
T. Higgins is a 10th-round keeper.
Yeah, but T. Higgins, you might be waiting 2 months for him to get back to the level we saw him.
So the thing with Burrow's knee injury, not only did he tear the ACL, he tore the MCL, and there was other structural damage.
He has to wait a month and a half for the ACL surgery because his meniscus has to heal on its own, and then he gets the ACL surgery, so that pushes it back more. So it's not going to be a 9-month recovery. It's going to be closer to 12.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just due to the fact that there's that other structural knee damage, it pushes that 9 to 12-month time frame, because that's like the normal time frame that you get from the doctors and stuff. It pushes it to 14 to 15 months.
So as someone who is a goalie and was a catcher when they played baseball, I know all about knee injuries. I've had my fair share of them. So I know I could tell what happened with Burrow, and they said that there was other structural damage. He dislocated the knee. You could tell from the mechanics of how the knee slid down and then slid back up. There was a dislocation, and when there's a dislocated knee, there's always a meniscus tear. So that's why. So you have to wait for some of these other things to heal before you do these other surgeries. So yeah, there's a very good chance we don't see Burrow for a good portion of next year as well.
I actually tore my ACL a little over a year ago now, but I dislocated my knee. It didn't tear my meniscus, thank God. I don't know how. Yeah, my knee was basically turned sideways, like my kneecap was on this side of my knee, and then I tried to walk on it and snapped it back on its own really quickly. So I saw it, and I was like, oh, I already know what this is. I've seen this story before. So I feel bad for Joe Burrow there. It's just
shame on the Bengals for putting him behind that O-line. And throwing him 50 times a week, and he's so good because he has the ability to mask it up. But I mean, it's a miracle he really made it this far. He's been getting pummeled this year.
I was talking with a group from one of my fantasy leagues. Why didn't they trade for Trent Williams?
Because it's the Bengals, and they're not trying to win right now, and they're cheap. They've historically been very cheap with Mike Brown and Duke Tobin as the GM. They haven't been able to really evaluate the O-line position very well for the past 10 years. I mean, we saw Carson Palmer get hurt, about a decade ago? And we saw Ryan's gone. And we saw Andy Dalton get hurt in the later parts of his career. So, look, they haven't really been able to protect their investments as it is, and it happened, unfortunately, to Burrow in his first season. So –
yeah, really a shame. So I just got a text from him. He said to keep going. His computer froze, so he's going to start. I said go on with the duds for the tight ends, and if there are questions, can you see if there are questions?
Oh yeah, I can. I could go on. Yep, I will. Okay, so we're at wide receivers, right? You haven't gone with wide receivers, correct?
I brought up T. Higgins and the rest.
Yeah, okay, so I'm up. All right, so I will go with Allen Robinson, as Ryan alluded to, but him with Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky is two different players. So In the 10 and a half quarters that he was with Mitch Trubisky, he saw 10 catches for a little over 100 yards, which would equate to about a 4 for 40 game. And obviously that's not what you want to see, but he's playing against Jair Alexander tonight. And structurally, the offense that Mitch Trubisky will play with tonight, I think Bill Lazor's going to dumb it down for him. I mean, he just can't deliver the ball outside the hash marks and down the field like Nick Foles at least has the ability to. I mean, it's not pretty. It doesn't look good. But Mitch Trubisky has his issues pushing the ball down the field as it is, delivering the ball to those outside receivers. So I think it's going to be a lot of touches for Cordero Patterson and maybe sprinkling some Mooney. But, I mean, with Alexander and Trubisky, Alexander for Green Bay, fully back, Trubisky in the lineup, I am staying far away from Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible to watch. A bunch of my friends are Bears fans, so I tend to watch a lot of the games and you know, kind of trash talk him for having it. I agree 100%. I am not at all confident with him. I'm actually not confident with Mooney either. I know he's been kind of coming on the scene and everything, but I fear for the Bears in this sense.
There he is, and we got more questions.
All right. All right, so where did we end up with?
I just wrote my wide receiver dud. So we could do the questions that are up or your wide receiver dud.
Okay, yeah, let's get to the questions. We've got 3 to get to right now. Boy.
Why? Embarrassment of riches. Literally 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in fantasy. Get out of here.
Either of them.
I'll go with Murray. I think I'll go with Murray. He's had the 10-day rest. The shoulder worries me, but I mean, he's had 10 days to get over it, and his rushing floor is the best in fantasy football. He has 10 rushing touchdowns on the year, so I'm betting on him getting another score or 2 on the ground and getting back to his 30-point per game ways that we saw before that Thursday night game against Seattle.
Yeah, he was removed from the injury report, which means he's full to go. Oh boy, it's just pick one and be happy with what.
I was gonna say whoever you want to watch more, I guess. Whoever you enjoy watching more. I don't even know.
Eric, why'd you have to split it up, my guy? I have to go Herbert. It's gonna be a shootout. He's gonna throw the ball. You know, Bill Belichick, as much as the Patriots are downhill this year, I know he's gonna try and scheme to keep Kyler Murray in check. And I know it's not always gonna work, and he's gonna get that rushing attack that you're saying about, but it's gonna not be what we're expecting it to be solely because it's Bill Belichick. I'm going with Herbert for the shootout.
It's not the same Patriots defense that we're used to seeing. I mean, I think Cam and Murray are both gonna have big games on the ground. So I don't think you could go wrong here.
Yeah, I really like they said, I don't think you could go wrong. The reason why I may lean Herbert is because of pace of the game. There's a chance that
more possessions for sure.
That they're going to get just more possessions, more opportunities. New England's going to want to run the ball, and which they've been able to do this year with Damian Harris really coming onto the scene. Again, Murray's floor is just so high with the rushing. Like I said, you can't go wrong. Pick one and be happy with what you got. So this one is a little bit tougher, but I think, it's Christian.
Get that sack on. Get Murray and Kirk. Get that sack on. I like it. Yeah, come on.
Christian Kirk's going to be the one for all 3 of us. We got another Tyler. Oh boy!
It's my roommate.
So here's one where you want to reach out to the commissioner, find out if there are contingencies.
There's no contingency.
Oh well,
this is my roommate.
Well, yell at whoever the commissioner is, because you want to have.
Who's the commissioner of that league? That guy's a jerk.
All right. Here's what I'll say. I just don't think Boyd is playable this week. I'm with Tom. I just don't think you play any Cincy receivers this week until we see what happens, and I don't think it's going to be promising. But you're gambling, and if there's a guy that's droppable on your team, maybe you pick up a David Moore, or if Jalen Rager's on waivers, someone on Monday night they could plug in there who I trust more than a Tyler Boyd in case Deontay doesn't play. That I think that's the best play you have. I just don't think you play Tyler Boyd.
It's not the best play. Ryan, play Evan Ingram versus the Bengals. What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't know that.
No, not you.
I don't have his team in front of me.
Evan, what are you doing? Evan, what are you doing, my guy? Evan Ingram versus the Bengals? Are you kidding me? Like, I get it. You got Deontay Johnson. You got Claypool. I don't care.
If you add Evan Ingram to this question, Evan Ingram's my choice.
And he's been playing well the past couple of weeks with Danny Dimes.
It's
a decent play.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to play Deontay Johnson in this matchup.
He's been looking great.
I loved your comment about trying to pick up an available Eagle or Seahawk play, because you want to give yourself. I would want to give myself as much time as needed to see if that game actually gets played. Because if that game gets played, I'm easily choosing Deontay Johnson. So, I would either play. I'd play Evan Ingram or pick up someone that plays on Monday night to give you just another option to keep Deontay Johnson's spot warm.
Well, and now that you mentioned that, I'm going to get Hinton off my roster, and I'm taking Sterling Shepard off waivers.
All right. We have another question. Must win week. 2 wide receiver. Oh, here we go.
Look at this team.
There we go.
I'm ready. Let's build the franchise, baby.
How is this a must win week? What are you?
I guess only two. I guess only 2 teams make the playoffs.
4-man league, 2-man playoffs. Yep, that's exactly what we're doing here.
Good Lord.
So wait, we're picking. Wait, is it 2 wideouts and 2 running backs and a flex? So we're picking 5 people.
We're picking 5. So that means we're sitting one of these.
Okay.
Sitting one. Okay.
I think I would. Call me crazy. I might sit Kamara, guys. He logged a catch in 52 straight games. He didn't have a catch last week with Taysom Hill.
You're crazy.
And Ryan alluded to it.
They're going to be
beast. Michael Thomas. He features Michael Thomas. He didn't look to Alvin Kamara last week. I mean, we talked about Derrick Henry. I think he's for sure the number 1 play here.
Yeah.
Robinson, Kamara is tough, but Robinson might see 30 touches today.
So to me, the one that stood out as the sittable one is Calvin Ridley.
But there's no Julio.
I know, but this is because Matt Ryan sucks when Julio Jones doesn't play.
But
you're the one that said earlier that it's going to be Ridley.
But he's going to get 250. He's going to get 250, and 150 is going to go to Ridley. I mean, that's how I see it playing out there. You can't bench DeAndre Hopkins. You can't bench Devontae Adams.
I'm benching James Robinson.
Do you bench?
That's my final answer.
I mean, Robinson's probably the conventional answer, but he's gonna I'm confident that Robinson's gonna get you those 15 points. Kamara has been a touchdown machine as well. Oh my God, I'm changing my answer. Just bench Robinson, I guess. Whatever.
Sure.
Must win week with that team.
How do you have to win with this team?
Well, he did say that he traded and wavered very well. So,
how do you have to win? You still have this.
I would love to see your league. I mean, that's interesting that you have to win. It really is.
Oh, okay. So he said he's trying to keep his undefeated record.
Oh my God! Come on! Oh, bench Robinson. Just whatever.
Bench Robinson.
At that point, it doesn't matter who you bench. You could bench Devontae Adams for all you care. You're undefeated.
I really think all of them are probably getting over 20.
Yeah.
All right. Robinson's gonna have 17. That's the problem.
All right. So we got another question. Who should I start at flex? Nyheim Hines, Mike Evans, Benny Snell, or Curtis Samuel? Standard league. So standard changes things a lot for me.
Yes.
It makes Nyheim Hines a lot less desirable. I still think he can be very good. Mike
Right,
Evans,
Ryan.
again, I said
rule out
earlier
Curtis
that
Samuel. I think we all rule out Curtis Samuel, right?
yes.
Well, I'm gonna steal Ryan's mind. Is there a contingency? Because if
Right.
not, I would play Benny.
Yeah.
So Benny Snell is the one that I would want to play. Find out if there are contingencies with your league. If you can plug a Steeler into that lineup and have somebody else as a just in case that game doesn't happen. In a standard league, I'm probably ranking them Snell, Evans, Hines, Samuel.
You put Evans above Hines, really?
Because
I put Hines over Evans
because of his touchdown ability, and we've
I worry
seen
about Fuller though, like you said.
I do worry about Fuller. The game could get into a shootout.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, but I think all three of us would prefer Snell if we knew that game was going.
And no Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams again.
Right.
I mean, that's a big deal for that run defense. So.
Yeah, and again, there's a very good chance that Pittsburgh gets it with all the players that are out for Baltimore. There's a very good chance that Pittsburgh is up early and they just rely on the run game in the second half. So yeah, that if you want to take the chance that game does get played, and the way the NFL wants the game to get played,
they don't want a week 18. They made that very clear.
Yeah. And especially with it being on a Tuesday night, it's going to be by itself. There's money to be made in that Tuesday night time.
And there's no Thursday now because the Ravens were slotted to play there. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason to play for the NFL on Tuesday.
Yeah. So I think a bunch of us or all three of us like Snell.
I actually heard a rumor.
The safest one would be Hines, though.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor if the Ravens end up not being able to play this and then not playing Thursday, whoever the Steelers were supposed to play that next week would just play on Thursday and play the Steelers Thursday. I heard that would, and I thought that would be horrible because the other
would be nuts.
It would be Washington because Washington had
played on Thanksgiving
a Thursday game last
week. So it would be a full week for them.
That changes the dynamics of a week for how teams practice and how teams and how players recover, and that's how injuries happen. I would be shocked if that happened.
And then the Steelers didn't have a game at all this week. They're trying to meet in the middle. Plus, they want to fill that slot because of the TV deal and all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. We got another one. Nick Chubb, Nyheim Hines, Kenyon Drake, or Ridley need a running back and a flex.
So
Chubb and Ridley.
Chubb and Ridley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of us like Nyheim Hines, but
that matchup with Chubb is going to be, he's 120, 130 touchdown or two against Jacksonville today.
Well, and that's not thinking the Browns are going to get up stupid early and run out the clock. They're going to use Nick Chubb for that. He's literally
exactly.
the perfect player.
All right, so let's get back to our duds of the week. Got to make sure that we get through everything before 1 o'clock. So my wide receiver dud of the week is all Denver receivers against the Saints. We've already explained this all. You can't do it. You cannot do it this week. Tight end duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
The tight end one of last week with 2 catches. I'm going Rob Gronkowski. I know everyone's saying that this is going to be the big week. It's going to be a shootout. Brady and Gronk's going to get the touchdowns going. It's going to look just like New England. I don't listen to the hype. I think he's going to be targeting Godwin, Evans, Brown, the like. And I have a sleeper in this game who I'll get to in a minute here. But yeah, I'm just not a big fan of Gronk this week.
Derek, who you got as your tight end dud?
Jordan Reed. I mean, his status is up in the air. I always think he's kind of an enticing pick with Kittle out for the year. And now Ayuk's not going to play because of his COVID, coming out with COVID as a contact tracer. But they have Debo back. And Reed didn't even practice on Thursday or Friday. He has an illness that is not related to COVID, but I mean, I think they're comfortable thrusting in Ross Dwelly in that role, and he's more reliable as a blocker anyway. And I think they lean more towards the run with Raheem Mostert back. So just stay away from Jordan Reed today. I feel like it's a trap.
My tight end dud of the week is going to be Jonnu Smith. We're just seeing Anthony Ferkser get the majority of the tight end targets. And also we saw, and it took a rushing touchdown for Jonnu Smith to have anything decent against Indianapolis 2 weeks ago. He had, I think it was 2 catches for 12 yards.
Yeah.
Darius Leonard is just one of the better cover linebackers, and it's just a great defense.
He's there to block now for right now.
Yeah, and he's really good at it, which is why he's on the field. But like I said, with Ferkser getting the majority of the targets going to tight ends in the Tennessee offense, I'm fading Jonnu Smith. Sleepers of the week, quarterbacks. Tom, who you got?
Ryan, you're going to love me. I got Danny Dimes. I had to pivot once Tua went down. I already explained how much I like him versus Cincinnati. But one of the things that Daniel Jones has slept on, and mostly because he's a meme for doing it, is his rushing ability. The guy's averaging nearly 8 yards a carry. And he's the most efficient runner on that Giants team, and since he's going to be able to get ran over, he's going to throw it all over the place. I love Danny Dimes this week.
He has 5 games this year with at least 45 rushing yards. So that's 5 games where you're adding at least 100 passing yards to someone's total with how the scoring is set up. Excuse me. And against this Cincinnati defense, it's crazy to think that Daniel Jones may be one of the safer plays at quarterback this week. Derek, who you got?
I'll go with Baker because it's very likely that he's available on your waivers, and he's a decent stream this week against Jacksonville. We talked about how there's a very realistic possibility it's a positive game script, and I'm not even shying away from that just because of how decimated this Jacksonville defense is. No Josh Allen on the D-line, and they're down to their 5th, 6th, and 7th corners. They have C.J. Henderson IR, Sidney Jones on IR, Chris Claybrooks on the IR, and DJ Hayden's out today. So, look,
Allen.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, Baker's numbers have been very underwhelming because he's played in 3 weather games consecutively. So, but the most encouraging part of those weather games is he didn't turn the ball over. So I think he presents a decent enough floor to stream if you need it.
My quarterback sleeper of the week, and I know Derek has Tom has a little bit of an issue with this, but it's because I think a lot of people are going to look at what happened last week, and he came in and when he needed to throw a touchdown to get his team to tie the game, he throws an interception. So maybe some people are fading him a little bit, but he gets the Jets this week. He has a healthy Gesicki. He has a healthy Devontae Parker. So I'm leaning Ryan Fitzpatrick. Again, without Myles Gaskin, without Salvan Ahmed, Matt Breida is not going to get 25 carries in a game. I'm expecting a ton of passing attempts for Fitz this weekend. Are you going to probably get an interception or 2? Yeah. But you're going to be able to live with it because he's going to be able to put up the passing stats that Tua just hasn't been able to do over the past couple of weeks.
I think you mistake my issue with having an issue with your pick. It's not that I don't like it. I think he's going to pop off. I almost made him my stud. I don't think there's any question that he's going to do good, and I don't really see him as a sleeper. I mean, you look at the last game that he started, it was versus the Jets. The guy had like 300 passing yards and like 2 touchdowns or something like that. Guy knows how to play good against the NFC or the AFC East. Excuse me.
I guess I'm looking at a sleeper being somebody who is consensus out of the top 12, not someone who's not going to be a starter on the majority of teams. And I just think, especially in DFS, although I was shocked to see that he was on FanDuel the ninth highest salaried quarterback, considering the salaries were put out before we knew that Tua was going to miss this game. So, and at the time the salaries were put out, Flores had already come out and said that Tua was going to start this week. So it was a little shocking to see, because I was hoping to get him into some of my lineups, but I do like Derek Carr. So and Carr is $300 less on FanDuel, so it was just an easy pivot to go to Carr instead of Fitz. But in my season long, if in a 2-quarterback league, I'm plugging in Fitz all day.
100%. Love Fitz this week.
All right, running back sleepers of the week. Tom, who you got?
I think it could be a really big week for Leonard Fournette. I know you were talking about earlier about how the Bucs were going to get Ronald Jones a little more involved, but when we see these shootout type games between the Bucs and whoever they're playing, Fournette comes in and is that receiving back that I was kind of regarding to earlier when you were saying you're throwing the ball a ton. And Fournette has the ability to run the ball real well or get the job done. We saw him on the 12 carries get 103 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 2. So I keep saying I think Ronald Jones is going to slowly get more faded out of this offense, and Fournette is going to reap the benefits of that, especially in the passing game, which Ronald Jones just can't do. So in a shootout versus the Chiefs, I like Fournette this week.
Derek, how about you?
I'll go with Breida. I mean, you said it, Ryan. I'm not the biggest fan of his talent, but it's against the Jets, and there's no Gaskin, there's no Ahmad. So look, they had over 100 rushing yards in their first matchup. I think it has the recipe for a positive game script, and Breida ends up with 20 touches. So in a flex in your DFS lineups, or even picking him up as a streamable option, I think he was 8 or 9% owned before the news came out that Ahmad's out this week. So he's a solid plug and play this week.
So my running back, and like I said, this is my show. I'll break the rules. I'm gonna take 2 running back sleepers of the week, only because it was really tough for me to decide between these 2. One is someone that we talked about earlier, and that's James White. James White in a PPR against Arizona. I absolutely love his floor in terms of receptions, and my running back and my half-point PPR and standard. I was going to go with Brian Hill for Atlanta. No Todd Gurley, and even when Todd Gurley is there, Brian Hill. This is almost like a situation that we saw earlier in the season with Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake, where Drake was the starter getting the bulk of the carries, but Chase Edmonds was the more efficient back. It's what we've seen in Dallas. Zeke is getting the majority of the touches, but Tony Pollard has easily been the more efficient running back. Brian Hill has been the more efficient running back of the 2 Falcons, and now no Gurley.
I was going to say Gurley's a free agent at the end of the year. I think they're going to see what they got with Hill if he's the future of that backfield next year. So I think they might just say screw it and see what he's got. Give him 20 touches. There's no Julio Jones. There's not too many guys who get touches on this Falcons offense today.
Well, I hope not, because my dynasty league was ravaged with injuries, and on Monday I made a trade because I'm starting to fall out with the Rams running backs.
Yeah.
So I traded
McVay's worse than Belichick.
Yeah. So I traded Darrell Henderson for Todd Gurley because I needed some stability. I lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'd lost David Johnson for a couple weeks. I had Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, that's not doing anything.
one of these weeks, Akers is going to be the guy too. I mean,
Yeah.
I still don't know why he hasn't been featured 1 week yet.
So I was excited to make the trade. I traded Henderson for Gurley just to get some stability, and then of course Gurley is out, and Brian Hill was already taken. So, but I really do like Hill this week.
I usually like Hill. I just don't like him versus this Raiders rush, and hopefully he won't accidentally score a touchdown.
I look at what the Chiefs were able to do last week on the ground.
Yep.
We saw Edwards-Helaire with a couple touchdowns, and even Le'Veon Bell got into the end zone last week. All right, so let's get to our wide receiver sleepers. Tom, what do you got?
Picking him the last week, I think I could probably put him as a sleeper. Michael Pittman for the Colts. He's been tearing it up the past couple of weeks. Last week he had the low for his targets since the one game after the bye versus Detroit, and he ended up scoring his first NFL touchdown. I think this is a guy that's slowly progressing into the new number one receiver, replacing T.Y. Hilton, and it's going to be a big game, I think, versus this very difficult Tennessee Titans team.
It's funny because I almost put Pittman into my studs before I saw you add him as a sleeper.
I said this is the last week I can put him in as a sleeper, I think.
Yep. All right, Derek, who you got?
We already talked about him. I'm going Christian Kirk. He's seen at least 4 catches the last 4 games. No Larry Fitzgerald, who is guaranteed. He's logged a catch in every game the last 14 years, so there's at least a few catches up for grabs there. And it's going to D-Hop, and it's going to Kirk. It's not going to Andy Isabella. They don't feature tight ends in this offense. Interesting stat I saw in PPR formats, Kirk has actually outscored D-Hop since week 5. So fire up Christian Kirk today.
So once again, I'm going to go with 2 because I couldn't choose between them. One, just like with Tom, this may be the last week to call Nelson Aguilar a sleeper. He's become the number 1 wide receiver in Vegas. They get the worst secondary in the league with Atlanta. This could also be a Ruggs week. It could be a week for both of them. It's going to be a week for Waller. It's going to be a week for – that's why we all love Derek Carr this week. And I also love Cole Beasley this week. With no John Brown, with them going against a high-powered Chargers offense, they're going to need to score points. And when John Brown isn't in, Beasley is a target monster. I really like Cole Beasley this week. I think he can actually start for you. All right. We do have a question. Curtis Samuel or Chase Claypool? Oy, oy, oy.
I think it's being equal with Claypool. Yeah.
Yeah, see if there are contingencies with your league. If you can play Claypool and have Samuels as your fill-in, just in case the game gets canceled, or like we mentioned earlier, check to see if you can pick up someone on Seattle or Philly that you can extend an extra day, because none of us are really on Curtis Samuel this week. All right, let's wrap it up with tight end sleepers of the week. Tom, who you got?
I really like Austin Hooper in this game. Derek kind of touched on it when he was talking about Baker Mayfield. This Jacksonville team is just so bad and doesn't really defend the tight end anyway. So I think the connection there is going to be really good until the Browns have the game within reach and they run with Nick Chubb.
Derek?
Will Dissly in Seattle on Monday night. The Eagles have been susceptible to big tight end games, and with no Greg Olsen in the mix, he's out with plantar fasciitis. Will Dissly just saw a shade under 70% of the snaps last week. That's only going to go up. So he very well could be that third receiving option going into Monday night against the Eagles.
Love going to Disneyland this week. I'm going to go Gigantor. We're going to go Mo Alley Cox against Tennessee. his even though they have that three-headed monster at tight end, they're using two on a field a lot. They're using that 12 personnel, and Mo Alley Cox has actually garnered a larger snap percentage than Doyle or Trey Burton over the last 2 weeks, and he's the most athletic out of all of them. So I think he gets at least an opportunity for a touchdown this week. All right, let's quickly wrap it up. We have our stacks, lock pick, and against the spread pick of the week. Tom, who you got?
It's back, baby. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs versus the Chargers this week in that shootout we've been talking about. My lock is the Giants over the Bengals solely because the Bengals aren't going to be able to score any points with what they got right now. And against the spread, I actually really like the Chargers +5 is what it was on the score betting when I was looking at it last. So I'm not sure if that's what it matches up with in Vegas, but I really like the Chargers even just to keep it close.
Yeah, last I saw was 4.5. So yeah, that was pretty close. Derek, how about you?
I'm going to add on to my Brady stud pick and stack him with AB. He saw 13 targets last week. And, yeah, as Ryan said, I don't think they're going to really target the outside. It's going to be more middle-of-the-field slot targets. My lock is going to be Seattle over Philly. That's pretty self-explanatory. And my against the spread pick, I'll go Tennessee +3. Without Buckner in the mix, I really like Tennessee straight up. I think Derrick Henry, as we talked about, we've been singing his praises today. He's going to give him fits today.
My stack is going to be Fitzmagic and Devonta Parker. My lock pick of the week is the Rams over the 49ers. And I love Carolina +3 over the Vikings. We've talked about that game a lot this week. It's a very intriguing game with everything that's going on with the Vikings without Adam Thielen. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribing to Backsports page on all social media, and especially on Facebook and YouTube, so you know when we're going live. We are live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you send in your comments throughout the week. You can tweet us at Backsports page. You can tweet the show that Derek and I do on Wednesday at Zero Tech Pod also. So thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Guys, have a great week.
Let's watch
Hampton,
baby.